So I'm outside at Waterhouse Gallery today here in Santa Barbara. It's gorgeous. I'm going to paint a horse and kind of the shadow of the horse. It's a photo that I happened to take a while back, had it in my archives, and decided I'd do something a little different. So it's 28 by 22, kind of with a little bit of a wash, a little gesso, a combination of ochre, a little brown, a little blue mixed into that, and white. And we start in, get a sky in there, get the kind of blue sky. And so we start with ochre, blue, white. That's pretty good.
Beautiful.
And you probably hear a lot of people be walking by. So hopefully you can hear me. We're going to get the sky in pretty quick. And I didn't mix up my paint. I can see right now I'm going to need more white. Not even a question in my mind. Have enough white. You know, the larger you work, the more paint you have to lay on your palette. That would be one of the first things that everybody should kind of begin to figure out, is that you're definitely going to need more paint when you work larger. This isn't outrageously large. And I do charcoal drawing first, kind of scribbling out where things go, the proportions of the horse, things of that nature, and a little bit of a vine charcoal. I like to work in vine because I can smear it around and figure out some problems. And there's a lot of extra lines up here that I need. A teacher of mine used to say, put enough lines up there, one of them's got to be right. And so it's a matter of choosing what's right, where those right lines are. Now, let's get that kind of dark foliage in the background. And for that, I'm going to use a lot of green. We use some asphaltum. We use some medium. Maybe just a little bit of ochre thrown into it, just so it don't go as dark as I can go. And we'll go kind of right in there. That looks pretty good. Let go of some things. In other words, be pretty free with it. You know, I mentioned, I say a lot of things over and over and over again. One of the things that I say is, don't be afraid to be wrong. It's really important because it'll free you up. You will not feel as compelled to make everything so accurate that you actually, the marks you make are relatively rigid. They're not as bold and so this is pretty thick paint actually. You notice I kind of really work on those edges so that I don't have to go back and repaint them. So if I can nail those edges right at the beginning, I've saved myself a lot of agony and some time. So we're going to come down here. There's a little bit of light up in here, so we're going to leave that alone. A little bit of the tree. It's the third time I'm mixing this color, just so you know. Green, brown, and ochre. Green, brown, maybe just a touch of medium going back into it. And what you do is I've done this in other paintings in the past, is I try and set the background, get the environment going the way you want it. So when you come in and you paint whatever your subject is, you've solved a lot of the value problems around it. And it's a matter of just dealing with the value problems within the subject that you're painting. And you're not trying to, you know, match 10 different subjects, the value relate correctly. Twist that brush if you have to. A little bit of light in here, so I'm going to kind of leave that alone a little bit, bring some light back in a little later. But right now, it's about where I want it. And the ground plane, added some turf, added some more ochre. little bit more ochre, maybe a little bit of a reddish color into that. And let's get some of that. Whoop, I didn't want to over that far, but that's okay. Maybe a little asphalt and throw back into that. Who knows whether it's going to stay this way. But right now, the value is pretty much the way that I think it should be. And there's a lot of mixture of different colors in there. There's a little burnt sienna, there's a little ultramarine blue, there's definitely some sap green and some ochre all thrown into these. And it's not any one specific color. I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, that you don't have to be a specific color. Generally, unless you're going to over exaggerate your color, you can keep the color, even though you want that strength and value, which I have, but I can keep that color kind of under wraps, so it's not someone can't point to it and say, "Oh, that's red." I think it's an important thing. I'm a value freak, which you guys probably have understood from previous paintings that I've done. And the fact that I look at value as color, that becomes a little bit more of the first inclination is that it's gut level. You just react. Then somewhere along the line, you get into the analyzation mode. And the analyzation mode, with that, what I mean is literally you're looking at it and you're thinking about, is that right? Is that wrong? Now, let me state one thing about that. I don't want to make it sound like you never do that until that one point. I'm always looking at it. But there is a point in every painting that I'm going to be a little bit more analytical, a little bit. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to maybe step back, look at it, say, you know, that would be better if I added a little bit more red to it. If I added a little bit more blue. I generally let that happen as the painting progresses. I don't start with that. So, you know, I'm not sure how all other artists do it. I think every artist works differently, and they find that key that works for them. And for me, the key is value first, then let's worry about getting that color right. So I'm going for that nice dark overall value, which I see it get even darker. So I'm going to add more asphaltum, ultramarine, go really dark, bring it over by the wheels. And while I've got that nice rich dark color, I'm going to look at all the other darks. There's a little bit of a warmer dark right here. This is kind of a nice color I have underneath. I should be able to use it. So what I'm doing is I'm lumping all these darks together as opposed to separating them. So if it's dark and it's adjacent to another dark, I'm just running it together at present. Later on in the painting, if I need to separate, I will separate. But at this particular juncture, I'm just basically painting it in terms of the overall value that I see. I want to get enough of it laid in. I know I can correct things like this later if they're off. Using my, as you can tell, probably my little gesso brush. Sometimes you can use a knife. You have to make it comfortable for yourself. Whatever you feel works for you and you can work with. Some of my choices when I do the demos like this, these live painting sessions, some of my choices are based upon the time frame that I'm working. In other words, I want to use as large a brush as I possibly can so that I can get as much done in the amount of time that I have to work. So I think that becomes a factor in my choices of what brush I'm using. But generally, I almost always use a very, very large brush to begin with. I just, it's something I've developed over the years and I prefer it. I feel more comfortable with it. I tend to feel when I work, when I get, when I start going with too small of a brush, I start getting too picky, and I don't like the character of the type of marks I end up making. So that's kind of my reasoning for choosing the size brush. It's not any one reason. There's several reasons. Like I said, time is one of them. Time. Just marking in these darks as bold and free as I possibly can at this particular moment. And I've set up my darks pretty well. So I've surrounded my main subject, which is good. It's really what I wanted to do. Surround my main subject. My palette is the same as always. The only color that I did not bring with me, and I don't think I'm going to really need it, is a lizard. All right. I still have, I have a little cad yellow, which I don't know if I'm going to need. Cad yellow hue, I should say. Naples yellow, yellow ochre, cad orange hue. I actually threw in a little bit of Mars violet deep. Then I have burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, sap green, and asphalt. And I left out the titanium one that I have right now. So now let's start in on some of the darks literally on the horse itself. It almost blends into that background color. It starts to get a little warmer. So I took the same color I was using. I'm just mixing a little bit of warmer colors into it. First thing is we'll get kind of this area up here. Some nice, thick, juicy paint. I was asked just last week by paper here at Santa Barbra was doing an article about what am I currently concerned with as I paint. And my answer was, for that particular thing, tactile quality. My statement pretty much was, I like the viewer to look at the painting and see the subject and admire, hopefully. Obviously, you want to admire the subject from a distance. And then as they get close, they actually feel the movement of the paint. So it isn't like you're hiding the paint, you're actually displaying it. You're making it a very important part of your, a little bit of wind, a little breeze. You're making it a very important part of your painting. So it's not just, so starting with those kind of shadows. I'm going to step back for a second and I'm going to bring a little bit more warmth into it. I think I'll bring a little bit of burnt sienna. Yeah, that helped. Same color, just working on that same dark tone. So we're going to start in. Now this value is getting a little bit darker than it's going to be. The value of the trailer itself. But it's light compared to everything else. So I don't have a problem leaving that right now. A little bit more burnt sienna. Burnt sienna tends to be a little bit more transparent than other colors, which can work for you. In this case, I'm using it as a warming agent to bring it down the center of the nose. You step back, get a feel. It starts to feel pretty good. It starts to have a similar characteristic, which is what you're going for. You're going for that similarity. Now, yeah, tendon right there in the horse's neck. And I have painted horses, but I'm not a horse painter. There are excellent horse painters, guys who paint horses, consistent. And you know, I'm an animal painter. I paint a lot of animals. Horses. Every animal has its own unique, specific characteristics. So what we want to do is get all these nice, rich, dark masses. And I'm going to add a little bit of tad orange hue. It's going to lighten it, warm it up, along with a little bit of burnt sienna. And we're going to come right in here. It's a little warmer, still right here. Kind of blends into the shadow of the figure. I love that hidden figure back behind. One of the things that attracted me to this image was the fact that there was a figure in here, but it was hidden. And you get a little bit of it down below, just the tip of the hat here, but you get the shadow. And it's intriguing to me in that regard that the figure is hidden, but the shadow is explaining that there's a figure back there a little bit more readily than you would see the figure itself. So at this point, what you're doing is you're painting big and kind of sloppy. You're trying to be somewhat accurate, but at the same time, you know that you're being a little clumsy. And I kind of want it to be that way because I want to be able to neaten it up. As I start too neat, then generally, I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. You start too neat, generally, then you feel like you have to go neater and neater and neater at each stage, or more clarified, I should say, more clearly defined at each stage. So my preference, truthfully, is to be a little bit wilder, so to speak, in the early stages, and then I'll be a little bit more concerned with accuracy as it moves towards what we might consider completion. A little asphalt into that color. That's a darker warm. I don't like the back of that. Let's smear that horse's knee. And then it gets really dark down towards the base of his. Pretty dark. I added a little green into that to just to make a little dark in it. Lose that a little bit. Other hoof is almost completely lost. That comes up. We're being a little more careful, a little bit more concerned about the anatomical accuracy, but not to the point where I'm jeopardizing the feeling of the paint. Trying to still keep the characteristic of that wonderful feeling, nice, thick, rich oil. And that's primarily the main reason I work in oil over other mediums is I like that characteristic. Obviously, you can get a wonderful characteristic in watercolor, but not the same thing. The same with acrylics. Probably come a little closer with acrylics, but I don't get the lush, thick, beautiful characteristic that I might with oil. So I'm asked that a lot. You know, as an illustrator, I work a tremendous amount with acrylics, and that was primarily for a time factor. And the fact that you can make changes very rapidly in acrylics. And so as an illustrator, that became my medium of choice for literally probably the first, 15 years that I worked. And then eventually I started, when I knew I had a little bit more time, I went and used some oil. And I've always fallen in love with oil, even though I probably painted with acrylics a lot more than I painted with oil. There's just a lushness. You know, I don't know how else to describe it. People have asked, and I can't find the exact words, but there's a lushness that occurs with oil that I cannot get with the other mediums. Probably could. There are certain types of acrylics that you can get that with. But, you know, and I know a lot of people say, they don't like oil because it dries, or they don't like acrylic because it dries too fast. My feeling is that's the reason to use acrylic, because you want it to dry fast. To me, if there's a drawback to oils, it's that it doesn't dry fast enough. like that way. You know, in another way, what that by not drying fast enough, what it allows you to do is become a little bit more. What's that? A little bit more concerned with other aspects. Down here, I'm just finding all these little the darks that I eliminated. There's a long strap, and I don't like the look of it. That I literally eliminated. And a horse, someone who really knew horses well, could probably call me on it, but that's my artistic license sneaking its way in. So we've got pretty much most of the darks laid in here. We'll get that dark figure back there. So I'm going to take ultramarine and burnt sienna. And we're going to kind of put that figure back really dark and almost just run it right into the horse. They almost do not see the difference. Shadows become one. It's as dark as I can go. So this is literally as dark, the closest thing to black that I can get to the palette that I have. Ultramarine and asphalt. And let's see where we're at here. It's about 20 minutes in. I'd rather go really fast at the beginning. And you know, I tell students this, really jump into it, get it going. And then as you progress into your painting, slow down, think, analyze, do all those other little things that you need to do. But in the beginning, just get it going. Don't be too timid. When I was a young painter, I used to not get going that fast. And I'd paint kind of slow. And towards the end of the painting, I didn't have enough time to make it as good as I wanted it to be. So I've learned over the course of the years, jump into it, be wrong if you have to, and then fix it later. So I'm going to take a little bit of white to this color. Haven't thrown any white, a little bit of white. So I grade it down, and I'm going to warm it up. And we're going to put kind of this window shape right there. Swap it into the horse. We'll fix that later. Get the next one in. Add a little bit more white to it, a little medium, a little orange. I've obviously chopped it about here. Partly because I have a different format, partly because this is kind of dead space and I just truthfully didn't like it. So we're getting the feeling. We'll bring this bottom of this tire down a little bit like this color. And you'll see me from time to time switch off and do different areas because I'll see an area that needs to be solved while I've got a specific color or a specific value. Here, a little darker. There. Okay. Let's get the shadow of this horse. Okay. Now I know that I'm going to go lighter here. So, and I don't want to be. I'm going to probably want to go a little lighter in the shadow than it appears here. So, with the sky color that I've mixed in that area, between the sky and the dark of the horse is the value that I want. And I want it to be quite cold. So I've thrown a lot of ultramarine into it. I'm going to add some terp and some medium. Maybe a little Naples light. Let me see what we got color-wise here. Pretty good, pretty good. Maybe a little bit more ochre into it, huh? Let's try it one more time. All right, I'm going to kind of, I'll try and hold some of those lines so I know, because I worked the perspective out a little bit when I was sketching it out. Not perfectly, obviously. It's far from perfect. when I was an illustrator, I used to really, and I even tell young illustrators this quite often, uh, nail my drawing. I really, really make sure that drawing is right on the money. Hi. And there's a reason for that. Because clients, I was pleasing clients and I had to get specific things done correct. So I didn't want to be wrong. So, but as a painter, you're not painting necessarily for a client. Your client is you, unless you're doing a commission. Bring a little bit, I brought a little bit more warmth into that color change. Down.
So I've had health issues, right? So I'm in pajamas, but it's
And down here.
up. So I just
Kind of blend it. I'm letting it a little darker, but I want to keep that blue. Stepping back feels good. Feels okay. Kind of like the blue. So I'm going to keep that pretty much as is. Light the smoker. And a little lighter. Get a little bit more. It's the cowboy. Cowgirl. Cow person. We've been playing golf. We kind of want that color to work its way into the rest of these colors. And then we're going to get add a little more blue. One a little darker. And we get spent a lot of time doing this. But it's odd because it goes out to the edge. It almost gets a little aura of warmth. So I added ochre and orange to that color, and I'm going to go right on this edge. I want to soften that in, and I even see it a little warmer. So I threw more orange into it, and I see it right there. And what that does is it just helps it not to look one-dimensional, like it's just a color. So there's some color movement. That's really what I'm shooting for. It's get a little of that color movement going. It'll kind of work its way in there. Then over here, a little warmer with ochre and see, it goes kind of this direction. A little bit more warmth into it, so some brick sienna. It's pretty dark as it gets down here. And then warmer and more ochre. So we're going to hold that as is. And what's happened is we've got kind of a good beginning. See if I can get the rest of it. That tends to work pretty good. Good enough for what I've got. My time frame, which is really what I'm looking at. I really do look at the time frame. The horse is the key, so we really want to put our time into that horse. I'm about 25 minutes in. So next thing I'm gonna do is work on the trailer, this color. So I want to get this color set. Then we're gonna go and we're gonna spend most of our time right here. Okay? That's how I'm kind of planning my time frame. Stay with the same brush. Stay with the same brush. Then I will be able to lay in large areas. So what I'm doing is I'm getting a lot of the residue of that dirty, dark color out of the brush right now. Okay, and with that in mind, I'm going to take Naples yellow light, a lot of it, and move it over to a spot on my palette. Take a little bit of CAD, not CAD, the titanium light, and I'm going to mix it up with a palette knife. Maybe a touch of orange. So keep it in the warm side. Maybe even a little bit of yellow. All white. See, when I started adding orange yellow, it started going a little darker. So what I did is try to come up with a nice creamy white. And I added a little bit of medium. Let's test this color. What do you say? This is going to be a lot warmer than this, but I want it. That's going to be good. So we're going to just take that color right now, and we're just going to kind of put it on all over the place. Now we're going to come down. Enough edges. That's what I'll use a brush for. Just want to get enough paint down on this perspective. I'll make sure to get that perspective right. Otherwise, you never have one. Feels okay. It feels loose.
Yeah.
That looks, as I stand back, it looks pretty good. This window looks like it's leaning a little bit, which means I need to shift away right here. And that's good enough. Put some more paint down there, and I'll take my brush, finish it off. I'm really using the application of the paint with palette. Now, if you can, go ahead and create your edges with the knife. If you feel timid and it doesn't work, then save that in the brush. Oh, boil them, watch up.
That's not a bad thing.
No, except for getting comments from passers-by. I have no idea what they're saying. Those of you that paint a lot of plein air understand this. Part of the fun is that a lot of people hate it. I really don't care. Whether you come by and criticize or ask questions or do whatever. Great painting out so the public can see it. All right, I'm going to leave that knife alone and go back and use my brush now. This brush. So I'm still not using a neat brush. Still kind of using this clumsy. Come in and just finish it off. Something gets messed up, let it get messed up because you can fix it later. As long as you know you have the time. And I see a wonderful aura of almost orange around the horse, which is really nice. And if I can, I'm going to try and get it in there. see if we can neaten that up a little bit. Don't like the front of that, so let's fix that. It's looking good. The shadow's feeling okay. It's not right on the money, but it's pretty good. Borrowed some paint up here. Every now and then, go back and pick it up. Keep going.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How do you keep your focus when there's a million things going on around you? Because you've always been able to do that. I don't
Yes.
know how you do it.
You know what? Where I learned that? In class. I really hadn't thought about that. Explain that really quickly. So we're in class with a lot of classmates, and they're all painting from, and usually it was a model, painting from a model. And everyone's painting, and you have to learn how to, and I was not good at it at the beginning. You have to learn how to concentrate on what you're doing, not what everyone around you is doing. And so I think I picked a lot of that up in art school in class. So, because I worry about mine. And the only time I really, if I took a break, then I would see what everyone else was doing. But I think that helped a lot when I started painting outside, or when I painted anywhere, for that matter. I have a tendency to be able to focus. And it's like what I'm doing right now when I'm talking, and I'm painting and talking to you guys and telling you what I'm doing. I'm focused, but I'm not as focused as I would be if I were in my studio quiet. Okay, let's have to add a little bit of something in here because I'm going to make that rope in. Kind of like some of the smeariness that's occurred. Don't like the trapezoid characteristic of that window. We need to kind of bring that part of it over and bring that part of it. There we go. So right now I'm going to leave those windows alone, even though they all have rounded corners. And if I wanted to, I can come in and blend the corner. Now, I'm at the point where I want to get into the full story. So I'm going to take a big brush. I'm going to switch down to 6. Here we go. This looks like a number 10. One of my rosemary number 10. I'm going to come in with a base color, which is kind of that rust color. So I'm going to start with tan orange, yellow ochre, medium. This looks pretty good right here. I think I could have a little bit more red into it. So I'm going to bring a little bit of burnt sienna. Let's see what happens. What do you think? Pretty good. I think I can throw a little more burnt sienna. Okay. A little bit more burnt sienna. Up there. And where the transition occurs. When I say transition, it's where it goes from light to shadow, because your lights are not going to be quite as bright there. So I've added a lot more burnt sienna. Even more. We'll come down right. There. And a little bit more of the in-between color. Staying with this nice big number 10 flat allows me to be bold, much the same as I was, but a little bit, I can be a little bit more accurate than I was with my gesso brush. A little bit of light before it gets really light. You want to get those the brightest lights yet. Man, the tendency, honestly, is to want to go in and take this one area right here and finish it off. I don't do that. I allow my painting to build slowly knowing that this area here is going to get lighter. And on the neck, it's a little lighter. So there's some more ochre into that color. Bring a little bit more medium. And adding the medium is what flows nicely. And a little bit more burnt sienna. Ochre, burnt sienna, and medium. Those are the colors that I tend to be using right now. Medium isn't the color, but you know what? And I'm kind of flirting back and forth between that strong burnt sienna and then the more ochre. I purposely do not want to get too bright too quick. Bright meaning light, bright light. Nice chestnut, beautiful, rich, warm colors. A little bit more red sienna. Now I can grab my, I have the Mars Violet D, which is similar when on your palette, it looks like a dark, kind of a deep burnt sienna. But if I were to add white to it, it tends to go more violet. Or the burnt sienna will stay more in the red range. So we're going to go right here. Down. Starting to get the rich redness of this horse. Now I know probably a lot of horse painters out there that really paint horses all the time. They're going to find flaws. And you know, like landscape painters can find flaws with landscapes. Figure painters can find. So, you know, no matter what you paint, there's going to be things that aren't as good as they could be if you painted it all the time. But if you're, say, a landscape painter or a horse painter, and that's what you paint almost 90% of the time, then that could be just terrific. I mean, you could be painting things that work beautifully. So we're going to put this back leg in. So these some more tendons that are going to be showing in there, which hopefully we'll have time to get back into. Look in here. So I'm going to take not burnt sienna. I'm going to take the Mars Violet D with a little bit of shadow detail. Take some more of the ochre, bring it in around the horses. And I get some of that beautiful grays in there too. So we're going to get those grays in. Can't get everything in at once. Okay. Really important. Rather than switch right now, I'm going to stay with this color and use it. So I'm going to take the darker version, which is the Mars Violet D. A little bit more like right up in here, right where the saddle is. Bring this rich color down here, some grayer color on the other side. We got that warm color in there, a little bit of a warm. That's going to go really light. So the horses start to come together, but we got a lot to do. Got a lot of ground to cover, and I have to give myself enough time. Come back in and finish off the horse so he looks good. That's our star. Nice stroke. Finally. Another one. Okay. Good set. Take that brush of a set of 10. Gotta pick up number 8. Yeah, it's an 8. And we're gonna come in and get her blue pants in. So I'm mixing the blue back into kind of some of the shadow color because the blue pants are similar in that range. A little bit of white to it, a little bit of medium, and then let's take a look. Let's see what this looks like. Pretty good. That'll work. Never know if you put it in there. I always refer to my first stroke as a guess. And then I judge from there, and either I augment it and change it, or I continue with it. Darker, a little darker as it goes down the leg. We're going to leave that alone for right now. There's some problems there, but I think I can fix it. I'm going to go into that with a small brush for a second. Just a nice small number 4. Pick up some of this color up here. You want to come in and be a little bit more careful right about here. And do the same. Get that nice aura. And I'm just using the color of the horse. Around. A little bit there. Same color, the horse. You can find a way to move a color that you've had in your painting into another area. It helps harmonize the overall look of the painting. So it's something that's desirable when it's at all possible. We're going to come in here and look down. There. Let's see. Anything else I need to do? Okay, that's better on the left. So I'm going to leave that alone for a little bit. I'm going to move along on the horse. I think the tires, if I need them, I can throw them in at the last minute. So little things like that. I'm going to grab this one brush, got a little bit of light sneaking in here. And we'll put it down. Leave that alone. Just don't have time to fuss with it. So kind of have to say that's as much as we're going to get done there. We'll come down a little bit more of a shadow there. All right, let's go into that horse. See if we can get a little bit more going on in the horse. It's kind of finish him off to a degree. So I'm going to take Naples light, take ochre, and those are pretty much the colors I see. And then I'm going to take a lot of medium. This is probably a little too light, but I'm going to try it anyway. That's a little lighter than I want, so I'm going to take more ochre, maybe a touch of orange. I'm going to try it one more time. Again, And a little bit in here. But you see, every time I'm doing this, I'm mixing it into the paint. So I'm getting a little bit, it's not quite as light as the color I have mixed, which I want it to mix into the paint. I want to get that wet in the wet kind of gooey quality going. Oops. I messed up on that. So you take that background color, right about in here, carve back in. That's what you're doing. You're carving in and out constantly. Same here. I'm going to go a little darker. So you're putting it in, taking it out. So let's keep going. Down here, belly. Oh, I like that thick feeling of paint. Hopefully it works because I like the thick feeling of paint. I never know whether it's going to work until I get more towards the end, and then I look back at it and say, well, that works, or well, that doesn't work. I need to do something. So we're going to go right across from here, right about here. Go up. Light touch on the brush. Very, very, just barely let it, oops, too heavy. Clumsy, clumsy, clumsy. I pick up a clean brush. I want a correction brush that I can always go back and use. So we get that, that's better. And I want to get more of that warmth. Okay, let's keep going. Keep it bold. I want to keep it bold enough. A little bit more orange into that base color. And we're going to come right here. I'm interested in nice marks, by the way. I haven't talked much about that, but I want the strokes that I put down to have character. So the marks themselves, I want to look decent. Maybe I have to go back here and there and manipulate a few because they're not going to go down exactly the way that I want them right at the beginning. A little too strong there, but I'll go back and adjust it.
Does it look good?
It looks
I
pretty
actually thought it looked good. Yeah.
Right back on this way. Right here, I see some nice light. Now, let me explain something. On a painting that I might be doing and spending a lot longer on, I would be going up in more stages than going right for a certain color right immediately. I would probably bring it up through many in between stages to get to that point. But when I'm painting quickly, much like a plein air piece, you have to go for those colors quickly. Those colors, those values, you can't say, well, I know I'm going to have 3 more hours on this piece, so 4 more hours or 2 more days or whatever it is. So I have to really get them in there, make my call, put it in, cross my fingers, I'm right. It's a combination of all of the above, everything I just said. Okay, let's get some of those grays going that we talked about. I think I'm going to stay with the same brush. I always got to switch to a different brush, but I don't think so. Number one, I want to get a little bit on that horn. That's cooler. But I can move back into my blues if I need to. Bring a little orange into it. A little bit. And we'll go a little warmer. That's good. I got the one about red. Now, I want a lot of white on it. So I'm going to take the same color and adding white and maples to it. And we're going to No. There we go. And we'll do it the back of saddle also. Step back, look at it. Looks okay, except for this one spot needs to be narrow. Just go back, carve that away. Looks pretty good here. And we get the straps hanging down. Get a color in here, which is kind of a not a warm and not a cool. It's kind of in that. Nope. Try it again. Better. And we'll take a little bit of that cool edge. Start to get a little bit of information going on here and there. There. Stay with the dark. What do we got here? Oh, I got about 35 minutes left. Shadow. Step back. Step up. Dark. Again, when I need it dark, I'm going always to ultramarine and asphalt. This is drawing with darks. That's what I kind of always refer to this as. And let's get some of those kind of gray, lighter colors back in here. Look right here. It's got a really beautiful highlight. So it's leather, so it's very, very shiny. It's got a highlight, a little bit of warmth to it because we're adding warmth to all the lights. Keep that much the same as I've done up here. Step back. So it's shaping up. It's coming together. Not great, but okay. Warmer, but not really warm. So asphalt and keep it a little grayer than some of those other bright ones. There, there. Pick up. Okay, now we've got this strap, which is similar to the color I was just using. Right about, oh, not dark. More asphalt. And go a little lighter now. Let's get the front of this horse's face going. Not real thrilled with the drawing. Fix that a little bit. And we're going to go with some of the beautiful dark. So we're going to use the asphaltum. We're going to use the ultramarine and come up with a beautiful black. And I'm going to add white to gray it down. If it's too cold on me, I will bring more warmth back into it. I think I'm pretty good right there. Kind of a nice gray. I think it's a bit lighter. Still think it's a bit lighter. Lighter, I'm just adding white. It was darker. where it goes darker. So I just added more asphalt. Whoops. Right again. And a little bit of gray up around the eye. A little bit of gray in here. We can add some warmth. I can add some light to that gray. Right? And let's reestablish the horse's nostril, which is very dark, slightly warm. Now, this is where you control. You bring back a little control. You kind of bold with all our lands. Now I'm going to be a little bit more concerned about accuracy. Yeah. Of course, the horse's foot might consider the horse's lip. And it's more light, so we'll bring a bit more care right up. I messed up the drawing. So what we do, take that blue, and actually carve it. So until it's where you need it to be. Now, there is a feeling that comes around. Gotta get rid of that. Comes around. And then there's light. So I'm going to grab a smaller brush. One of my, number 2. I'm going to go pretty light, medium, over, nipples light, and let's try it right. I'm going to bring it from here up here. That works. I'm going to go around it now. That nice and dark gives this jaw here. Up. This is a lot of this is just the control that you need to bring to it, right towards the end. Just bringing accuracy back. Or I went for nice bold marks and strokes, and now I'm going clarifying and being a little bit more concerned with accuracy. Horse's eye. A little bit of beautiful warmth on that back here. Maybe a little more. A little bit on the other ear. And if I messed up the drawing when I was painting the background, remember I said I would do that. Clarify the drawing. And with actual this color right here. Again, I don't want this horse to look like a mule. So I need to be a lot more accurate on those ears. Sort of push a little too far there. Leave it alone for a second. Get the mane going back behind. Get a little bit more of this ear coming right here. Leave that alone for a second. I'm going to go back to this color. Fix the eye socket. I'm going to fix. There we go. So what I've done is carved a little bit here. So now I'm going to go back and put some of the structure back onto the horse. Back on him, but I mean some of his rig. So it comes from behind his ear. Down about here. And then it works its way. My finger, because I keep touching my finger down. And you need to get the little cast shadows. So we're going to take the asphaltum right here. Right here. At the top. And just basically look to see where you're getting a little bit of that shadow, and it'll add the dimension. Now, there is a hardware right there. So we got to put the dark in. Then I can use. I did, but I can't find it. Probably in my bag. I will try and do it with this brush. A little white, a little medium, and get a nice tip on the brush. And we'll get it there, there. And
I am walking over to Misa right now.
just keep putting your finger down. You gotta be careful of that.
If I took a picture.
Oh, please do.
So gorgeous. I do the advertising for Laura. Don't mind if I post it. Nothing, of course. Okay, tomorrow. Opening tomorrow?
We've got a little bit of that shaping up. It's a little looser than I had kind of hoped, but I think it's for where it's at, it's worth it. So let's get a little bit of this in. Some of the lights, that light, that light, that light. The just try and looking for a little bit of the drawing information. I do see a little bit of light that I need to pick up. Oh, you're fine. Oh, we got a dog critic. Hopefully what he thinks is I'm painting is a big orange dog. That bothers me for some reason. I just can't get that right. Yeah. I want that to fade more. That's why. We want to get a little bit of white right there. A little bit. Probably take some of my warms and begin to cut back into some of the lights. And then I can also brighten if I want to. See a couple things I need to fix. The drawing right here. I'm going to go into the ground for a little bit right now. I'm going to get a little bit more on that ground. Let's do it with the biggest brush possible. Let's go back to this brush. I'm going to pick up my ochre with a little green, maybe a little orange thrown into it also. And let's get there we go. I'm starting to get it. A little bit of change right about in here. Stepping back. Hold it together okay. There's some subtleties that are really missing, but that's due to time and editing. And so, that's always going to be the case. You're always going to wish you had more. Let's fall into that. Notice what I'm doing is I'm making different kinds of strokes. Some are long, some are abbreviated. More asphalt. Felt a little too light, like I'm getting a little too much jump going on in there. Value wise, gotta still deal with the hooves. Fix the legs because I'm messing them up. Mess it up and fix it. That'll keep a freshness to your paint rather than trying to keep everything perfect right from the outset. Okay. Don't like that. I think I've got to get more light on the bottom of the horse right there. Got to get the two hooves in. I mean, not hooves, excuse me, the stirrups. One is right about here, coming right down. This could be lighter. Try it again.
So Lynn would like to know, what's the happiest subject matter for you to paint?
The happiest.
Horses, cities?
Oh, no. Happiest. Oh, gosh. I love painting in Europe, probably Venice. If I had it just off the top of my head, pick one right now. And if you ask me tomorrow, it might be different. But Venice, I love painting figures. So that's one of the happiest. Old characters. I kind of like a lot of things. I'm kind of lucky that I am not hung up on any one specific subject. I like a lot of different subjects, but generally I don't. It's hard to beat Venice. It just is. It's like Venice is magical. I've done 2 workshops there. Probably do more in the future. It's just too good of a place to not constantly go paint.
And Tom would like to know, if you had the time, where would you put in the detail work on this piece?
Where would I put the detail work? A lot in here. I don't feel it's right yet. So until I still got to get the tires in. So let's get those in. A little bit more in here. Got to get the hoods in. Don't have those in yet. And I've got about 15, 20 minutes now. I know I started a little late today. So let's see what I can do with this. Next 15 to 20 minutes. Wait a second. I don't think I have the horse coming up high enough in the back. I know that's wrong. Oh, that's the cowboy. There's a little bit of the hat. And do I want to show? I'm going to try it. If I don't like it, I'll pull it out. A little bit of the hat showing right there. Oh, a little bit on this side too. Right there. And then I like that question about the happiest. I really don't know. No one's asked me that question. That's one of the things I enjoy. I love these questions you guys come up with. It really makes me think because I don't know happiness. I like portraits a lot, you guys. I mean, I know it's taboo for a lot of gallery painters to say they enjoy portraits, but I always have and probably still do to this day. So I paint a lot of musicians. So that's one of the, that would go down as one of the happy things. There. So a lot of what I'm doing now to answer, I think was Tom's question, where I'm going in and I'm reassessing areas I've already painted, is what I would be doing. It's just, you can constantly find ways to fix and improve. And that's pretty much what I would be doing. I want to get those two tires in, I mentioned it. So they're kind of, they almost have a green quality. So I'm going to take the color I'm using for the brown and add white to it. Bring a little bit more green to it.
Boots wanted to know if you've painted Jude yet.
I've done 4 paintings of Jude. I posted a couple of them. Yeah, that's what I made my portraits. It's fun to paint. Did one at the day he was born from a photo that they sent us. I did one at 6 months. I did one at a year and one at 2 years. But was that boots?
Yes.
I want to paint boots. I'm serious. I really do. Boots, what a great guy to paint. Get out here, Boots.
Well, we have to go.
No, he put, yeah, we'll go there. I'll paint Boots. Boots can paint Dave. And we'll see what the hell. Yeah, we'll see what happens. A lot of weird little cast shadows on this tire. See what we got here. I'm gonna stand back for a second. Well, that's a badly drawn tire. Tire's got a problem, huh? Fix the tire. Tell Boots we're in Hawaii West right now, Santa Barbara. I'm lucky. I'm really lucky. A little air supply plan of that. Step back. Parts I do and don't like. There's certain things I like. I almost like some of the misdrawn areas. I do want to take. I don't have a straight edge, so I'm just gonna have to get to watch me eyeball it. Mixing up kind of a blue gray, light blue gray. what I'm going to do is come. Get a little ribbing. Boy, if I can get that, if I can make that ribbing work, I'll be very happy. I'd like to lighten that a little bit, but I don't have time. And as it comes in here. Now, one of the things that I think is kind of neat because of the ribbing, this is where if I had time, I'm going to try and do a little bit of it right now, but you get bumps. Bumps in here, bumps in there, bumps in there. That works pretty good. But I kept putting my little finger down. You see what I keep doing when I do that? Keep messing it up. I don't want to mess it up. I want it to look really good. So get a little bit of information. So the windows don't look too late. Okay, it feels like there's something going on there, so it's close enough. Like clean up anything I would. Check that eye socket of the horse. Still don't like this area right here. Still don't think it's working. That feels better when I just did there. Something about the ear bothers me too. But before I go any further, I didn't finish the tires. You guys are supposed to shout out when I don't finish something. Say, you didn't finish the tires. And I've got about 10 minutes, so let's add more light. Let's get the hubcap part in. What color is that? It's weird. It's kind of a non-color. It's kind of almost a warm and it's almost a cool. Right into this particular one. A little warmer, maybe. Maybe. A little brighter. of painting these hubcap areas in pretty blocky, bold, and loose. Don't want them to stand out too much. A little bit of that rim. But I got 5 minutes because I started 5 minutes late. So last 5 minutes, everybody. We got enough of those in. I'm not crazy about the way they're done. I think I can come in. I might want to get off camera and do a little bit of fussing on the tire itself. Let's get a little of the trees. What?
I was just gonna ask if you were gonna do that.
Yeah. Green and ochre. Not much, just a little bit of feeling of light color happening. Stepping back, hold it together pretty good. Not crazy about the cleanliness of the top. I think I can clean that up. I see a slight indication. Too dark. I'll show you something. I'm going to go ahead and do it too dark. All right, it's in there too dark. Now I'm just going to take a clean brush. I have to have a clean one of these. And I'm going to come in. I'm going to clean up the top a little. Oh, I know what. I didn't get this rope in. Let's get it in. So I'm going to take tan orange. I'm going to take burnt sienna. Maybe some Mars Violet Deep. We're going to come from right here. We're going to come right up. Here. And same color, the Mars Violet Deep. Probably the last thing I'm going to do. Orange, a little brighter color. And it hangs down. So I'm going to take the Mars Violet Deep. I'm going to bring it from here down to about there. Clean that up. sometimes the little mess ups, for lack of a better word, and a character that you just almost can't put into it on your own.
You're good.
Thank you. Do a couple cleanups and we're done. One is right here. And I could always fuss on the horse a little, but I probably won't because of time. But I just want you to know that, because I think Tom had asked the question, what would I do? I could go back and add some of the brighter little areas, just finessing more than anything. Some of these areas back in here. But basically, that kind of covers what I was hoping to accomplish. Still, I'm really not happy with the tires. I think I would probably simplify them with darks. Just go back and take a soften edges, clean them up. But for all intents and purposes, everybody, that's it for today. So, what do you say? We're gonna call it quits. Thanks for watching. We'll do some more next week. Okay. Bye-bye.